I come from Saudi Arabia. Alhamdulillah, our country is Islamic, and since I was 10, I always wore hijab. So it was a part of me, and I couldn't imagine myself without it. I always heard about so-called liberation of women and how Western women dress and what they think of hijab, but it never really affected me because I knew that these were tricks of shaitan. I also always heard about some men that wanted women to remove their hijabs and to mix with men, to so-called modernize. But it still didn't affect me at all because I loved my hijab and I never mixed with the opposite gender. I reached 30 years old and I was still unmarried until one day a very handsome and rich man knocked our door. And he asked my father to marry me. So I couldn't really believe it. I was so happy that such a handsome man would want to marry me. He was 27 years old, so 3 years younger than me. He talked to my father about how he prayed and he was a practicing Muslim. And I wanted to marry him, apart from the fact that he was handsome and practicing. I was afraid that I would miss the train of marriage and get old without having children. So we got married and we were very, very happy, alhamdulillah. I had my first child a year after and then my second child. We were a happy family until one day my husband announced that we would move to Europe. I noticed how my husband, from time to time, he talked about hijab and how it didn't make someone pious or how it was backwards. He would say it as a joke, but I got the hint. So I didn't really want to go to Europe. I knew the way they viewed niqab and hijab there, so I was afraid, but my husband insisted, so I didn't have a choice. After a few months, my husband would always bring up the hijab subject. He would give me examples of Western women without hijab who changed the world, such as Diana, the Russian woman who went to space. I could see where he was going, but I refused to believe it. Came our moving. We were in the plane from Saudi to Paris, and suddenly my husband took off my niqab and removed it from my face. And then he took my jilbaab and also removed it from me. And what he said was, "No more being backward." I was so petrified. I couldn't move. I felt like a part of me was ripped off. Tears fell down my face, but I couldn't do anything. I remained in that state during the entire flight until we arrived at the airport of Charles de Gaulle. I was so afraid that my husband would divorce me, so I forgot the saying of my beloved Prophet ﷺ, who said that there's no obedience to the creation in the disobedience of the Creator. I looked one more time at the plane where my hijab, a piece of me, remained, and with a broken heart I watched it get back to Saudi Arabia while I headed towards the city of Paris. The weeks passed and we went from Paris to London, and we did a whole tour of Europe with my husband and children, and we finally decided to stay in London. I got used to the way of dressing of Western women until it came to the point that I also wore jeans and tight dresses. May Allah forgive me. This dunya tricked me until I fell in her love and I forgot my love for Allah and where I came from. I went shopping one day to the mall in London, and while I was choosing some shirts, I looked to the right and I just stopped right there, staring. The shirt fell from my hand and I was shaking. I felt like my legs were giving up on me. I saw a woman covered from head to toe, and nothing could be seen from her except her eyes. I couldn't move. I stared at her and I just envied her strength until she felt me staring. She looked at me and we locked eyes, as if we secretly shared something and maybe she understood what I felt. My legs carried me towards her, me who gave up on my hijab and who didn't pray on time anymore, me who forgot my religion and who I was. I said to her, "Assalamu alaikum," to which she replied, "Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah." I asked, "Are you an Arab Muslim?" And she replied, "No, I'm a British woman who reverted to Islam with my husband and children 2 years ago. Alhamdulillah." I was shaking, looking at this courageous woman wearing full veil and covering even her hands with gloves. This woman didn't care at all about the stares of people or what they said. This woman chose Allah above everything. So I asked, "How come you dress like this here in London?" And her reply killed me. She said, "Allah is everywhere, whether in Saudi or in London. I obeyed my Lord who asked me to cover myself in 2 surahs." And then she recited me the verses of hijab. She said, "I live for Jannah and not for dunya. Why would I care what people say as long as my Creator is pleased with me? Will they be with me in my grave? Will anyone be able to save me in the hereafter? Will they stand with me before Allah on Judgment Day? I love Allah, and He gave me dignity and honor through hijab. I finally feel free and not like a piece of meat. I feel like a precious diamond, safe from the eyes of men, and I let people see of me only what I allow them to see. I'm in control of my body." She added, "Oh sister, don't let this dunya trick you, and don't let the shaitan win over you. This dunya, it's nothing but a temporary enjoyment, and Jannah is eternal. Did you already give up on Jannah? Oh sister, I hope that the next time I see you, you will be wearing the dress of taqwa and of faith, the dress of our mother Aisha and Khadija, the dress of Maryam, the best of the women of the world." When I walked back towards our house, I looked at the ground and I felt so empty. The world around me was so dark and tears were falling from my eyes. I didn't know who I was anymore. I was so angry at myself. I sat on my bed, staring at the ground and feeling sorry for myself. And that's when I realized how much I missed Allah in my hijab. I had lost my identity. And I was reduced to just another brainwashed woman who, despite living in the West and dressed in fashion, was very unhappy. Who was I kidding? I had lost my freedom and felt so exploited. I was jealous of this covered woman who reminded me what I gave up on. When my husband came home, I told him about the British revert, and he laughed. He said, "She's so backward." I got so angry and made my decision. I chose Allah. I said, "I want to go back to Saudi Arabia. I don't want to remain here another second." And I added that we either go back to our country and I wear my hijab, or we divorce. I now look at the sky and smile, feeling at peace, walking down the streets of Saudi Arabia, feeling so happy to wear my hijab again. Indeed, Allah guided me back, and now I feel finally happy. Allah guided my husband also, alhamdulillah. He got back to practicing Islam, and we live a good family life. We're now home and fully practicing our deen. Indeed, shaitan is a clear enemy to us, and I had to live in the West to finally realize the importance of hijab and how I craved to wear it and how safe I felt in it. I'm a heart and I'm a soul. That's what Islam teaches me. Not like the West that teaches you that a woman is nothing but a face and a body. If she fits the beauty standards, she's good. But if she doesn't, she's ugly and worth nothing. That's my story, and that's who I am. Alhamdulillah. My dear sisters, don't let the modern society brainwash you. Don't let them take away from you your dignity and your crown. You're the daughter of Aisha and of Khadija. You're the sister of Maryam and Fatima. You are a queen of Islam. Never ever forget that. Hold on to your hijab tightly and do not let the army of shaitan remove it from you.